We import NumPy as NP, and we print the version that we are using of NumPy. We're using 1.13.3. Next, we import PyTorch, then we print the PyTorch version that we are using. We are using PyTorch version 0.2.0_4. For the first example, we're going to create a PyTorch example integer tensor. We're going to use the PyTorch rand functionality to create a tensor that is 2 by 3 by 4. We're going to multiply it by 100, and then we're going to cast it to an integer tensor. Now we print our example PyTorch example integer tensor, and we see that it is size 2 by 3 by 4, and it is an int tensor, and we see the numbers that were generated. To convert this PyTorch tensor to a NumPy multidimensional array, we're going to use the .numpy open parentheses close parentheses PyTorch functionality. We're going to convert our PyTorch example int tensor to NumPy using that functionality, and we're going to assign it to the Python variable np_x_int_mda for NumPy example integer multidimensional array. With this NumPy example integer multidimensional array, we can check the shape to see what came out, and we see that it is 2 by 3 by 4, which is the same thing as our int tensor. We can check the data type. We see that it is int32, and that is the same data type that we have for our PyTorch tensor. You can see here int tensor, and that's what we cast our random PyTorch tensor up here to. Lastly, we can print our NumPy multidimensional array, and we see that it is the same thing, 10, 49, 91, 80, 10, 49, 91, 80, 82, 66, 41, 45, 82, 66, 41, 45. So that was how we converted a PyTorch tensor that had integers to a NumPy multidimensional array that had integers. Next, we're going to do the same exercise, but this time we're going to do it with a float32 tensor. First thing we do is we define a Python variable pt for PyTorch _ex_float_tensor. We use the PyTorch random functionality to generate a PyTorch tensor that is 2 by 3 by 4 and multiply it by 100. Next, we print our PyTorch example floating tensor, and we see that it is in fact a float tensor of size 2 by 3 by 4. To convert the PyTorch tensor to a NumPy multidimensional array, we use the .numpy open parentheses close parentheses PyTorch functionality on our existing tensor, and we assign that value to np_ex_float_mda. We can look at the shape, and we see that it is 2 by 3 by 4, which is what we would expect. We can look at the data type and see that it is float32. When we use the PyTorch random tensor functionality, by default creates a float32 tensor. We see that NumPy has the exact same data type. And lastly, we can print the values to see that we have the same information. Looking at this matrix, we see 23.3159. Here we see 23.31588. NumPy is just showing a few more digits. We see 23.4223, 23.4223, 17.8295, so on and so forth. So to convert a PyTorch floating or int tensor or any other data type to a NumPy multidimensional array, we use the .numpy open parentheses close parentheses functionality to change the PyTorch tensor to a NumPy multidimensional array.